Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Vanali.
And today we're here for pre-match coverage as Southampton take a trip up to Tyneside to take on Newcastle United in the Premier League. Now, joining us are former Saints captain Dean Hammond and former chief sports writer of the Southern Daily Echo, Adam Leach. Guys, Adam, you've not been with us for a few games. How have you been?
Yeah, I mean, really grateful to miss the last one, to be honest. I thought when I was covering 1-1 9-0, I'd not see another one again, probably ever. So yeah, I was, to be honest with you, I just had such sympathy for you guys as much as anybody else in midweek. So I was, happy to have ducked that one.
Yeah, well, you missed some interesting topics, actually. We were talking about sexy set pieces in the last game with Belvers, especially James Ward-Prowse's free kick. What gets you going? I'll take you for a corner man myself.
Oh yeah, I love a good corner, but I mean, I just slightly disturbed the word sexy in Belvers.
And Dean, how have you been? I actually did your football hit session this morning. Let's just say my skills are all messy without the Lionel.
I think mine were a little bit rusty this morning as well, Steve. I think it must have been because it was a bit earlier this morning. But no, I'm good, thank you. Very, very good. Survived another week of homeschooling, still intact. The family's still together, so yeah, we're okay. Thank you.
It's great stuff.
Oh, well, delighted to have you both with us once again. Let's have a little chat about the team news briefly, shall we? We know Alex Jankovic is suspended for today's game. The good news, though, is that Jan Bednarek's red card was overturned. You can see the players arriving at St James's Park now. And despite a myriad of injury concerns, including Stuart Armstrong, Yannick Vestergaard, Oriol Romeu and Carl Walker-Peters have all been back in training and may feature. And of course, new signing Takumi Minamino is available and could well play from the start. There's Yannick heading into the dressing room. Great to see him there. Now, we will be talking about that team in just a few moments' time. Obviously, lots of interesting discussion points there. But Adam, we do have to nod to the game midweek, seeing as though you weren't there. We're not going to let you off the hook just yet. So many talking points, obviously, from that game. But I suppose the overwhelming response from the fans is the most positive thing to take from Tuesday evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to try and look for positives, even in the most desperate situations. And obviously, losing 9-0 again is pretty much as desperate as it gets. The whole game, the whole situation of it felt, if you could have a different feeling 9-0 defeat, that it did feel very different to the last time it happened. And I know that Ralph spoke about that in his pre-match press conference for this game. And I think I felt like he was right. I mean, don't get me wrong, Saints were getting hammered without what happened at the very end. That just made the scoreline, inflated the scoreline and made it look even worse. So I'm not trying to, for one moment, cover up like how bad it is and kind of, to be honest, how embarrassing it is, because it is embarrassing. But I think the response of the fans has been great. After the Leicester one, I remember sitting in the press room, and a lot of the other journalists from national newspapers were just coming up to me, sort of trying to pick my brains, going, "Do you think this is it? Do you think Ralph will get sacked?" To me, it was never even a question, but there was that kind of feeling. Well, maybe in the wider football community, maybe he would go, even though I thought there was absolutely no chance of that, and obviously Saints stuck by him. What's interesting, of course, is this time that question hasn't even been raised. It's actually been, would Ralph walk away? Would he just go, I can't work with this restrictions that I've got in terms of the size of the squad that has obviously been shown up by the number of injuries that I've had. But the response of the fans has completely been to back Ralph because they can see what he's doing. And it was a terrible, terrible day, and there's no getting away from it. The squad was exposed, but also there were some really poor performances from senior players who should be much, much better than they were as well, which is unusual and is a bit disturbing. But I think the real positive is that unity that's come out of it. I feel like there's been a bit of a siege mentality this week around Saints. And that's not just been the manager and the players, but that's been with the fans, with the people who work at the club, with ex-players, with people who commentate on, pundits around Saints. Everybody's kind of locked down a little bit, excuse the pun at the moment, but and has rallied around Saints because it has been a good season. They can see it's been good. There's that feeling they don't deserve to be hammered and hung out to dry for that one result, as bad as it was. And I think that if you're going to try and take positives, that is absolutely the best thing that's come out of it.
Yeah, well, Dean, you actually posted a clip on social media saying the players should take good energy from a result like that. How have your reflections been on the game in the last few days?
Very similar, Steve. It's difficult to take the result. It really is. And I'm sure there's been some analysis on it, some reflection from the players and the manager. And there's obviously, like Adam mentioned, things that could have been done better as a group and individuals collectively. But I just feel as though results like that do happen. They're freak results, but they can happen. I think it can work out as a positive. You can react from it. You can become close as a group. You can find out a lot about yourself individually. So that can be good. And it was just more the fact that after a heavy defeat, after a real setback, people forget, I think, how brilliant Southampton have been. Since the first lockdown, and we've covered a lot of the games, we spoke about them. Personally, it's helped me get through the period because I've looked forward to watching Southampton. I've looked forward to covering the games. I've looked forward to watching the players play, and I think that just gets forgotten. So it was just more just to reach out, like Adam mentioned, and just kind of bring some positives to the situation, and again, regarding Alex, I remember in my career, I got relegated and sent off in the same game. And it does affect you. I think I was 22 years old. I was playing for Brighton. I got sent off. We lost the game 1-0. We got relegated. And I felt as though my career, okay, where do I go from here? Now, this is a real setback for me individually. I'm dropping down a division. It doesn't look good on me. But it actually kickstarts your career because you actually find out how much you want to be a player. So, reflection on the games, yes, things could have been done differently, could have just kind of shut up shop, but we've encouraged that the team doesn't do that for the whole season. They're always trying to score goals, always trying to attack. So yeah, can we gain some experience, some positive experience from the result? I believe so.
Yeah, without a doubt, always good to go into a game with that positive energy. And I suppose a real positive to take ahead of this game against Newcastle is that Jan Bednarek may well start today. His red card was overturned. I think that red card decision was a little bit harsh, to say the least, Adam.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just despair sometimes at the moment, don't you, with kind of what happens with VAR, with refereeing decisions. I think we all feel a little bit like we've stumbled into a world where it's sort of everything is on technicalities and whether something is technically correct or not whether it's kind of it feels right or whether it's in the spirit of the game. And I think VAR was meant to obviously stamp out, clear errors. And to me, you watched it and you thought, well, it doesn't look like a penalty, therefore it doesn't look like a red card. And then you hear people analysing and pulling apart the rules, and then you think, well, maybe technically, even though you don't think it's a red card and a penalty, somehow it is. But I mean, I think this is the state we've got to, and it's not a great situation to be in. But to my mind, and I think surely most people's, that was never a penalty and never therefore a red card, and it shouldn't have happened in the way that it did on the night. But if at least justice has been done to a certain extent in the interim period, albeit obviously the damage got so much worse due to that moment. And but yeah, I'm glad for Saints' point of view, Jan's back, but I'm also glad from football's point of view, because I think it was a incorrect decision and it would have been really, really bad for the game had that not been overturned.
Well, there is some more good news, and that's that loan signing Takumi Minamino is available to make his debut for Southampton. Dean, how do you rate Ralph's attacking options? Because it seems like when everyone's fit, there's a lot of competition for those places.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. I mean, the front four, the selection and the headache the manager will have when all the players are fit is fantastic. There's some creativity, there's pace, there's strength, there's goal scoring ability. So yeah, he's going to have some real choices, which is what you want within a squad. You want competition for places. It helps you improve as a player. It keeps you determined. It keeps you focused. And the signing of Minamino, I think, is great because he can play in a number of those positions. You know, he can play as an 8 in the centre of midfield if needed. He can play wide. He can play as a false number 9. He can play as a 10. And one thing that he's very good at, and which is good for the club, he's used to a pressing game. He's used to the high intensity that Southampton like to play with. So hopefully he can make an impact straight away, very similar to when Theo came back into the squad, back to the club. He made an instant impact, had an effect on the squad and the team. And I think it's a very, very good signing. How they select the players and the right four for when they're all fit, I think that's a brilliant situation to be in for the club and for the manager, but also a tough situation. But yeah, great options.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the fans are certainly excited by Minamino. But here's what Ralph had to say about the Japanese star.
I had today the first time a chance to speak to him a little bit longer in German. He has very, very good German because he played long in Austria. I mean, it's not only because Jürgen said it's the right choice for us. I know that he can immediately help us, and that's the reason why I'm very happy that he's around the team now. Showed immediately in the first session that he has qualities what are very helpful for us in every moment, and definitely happy to have him here in the squad. But no good news without the bad news. Stewie has again a little bit problems with his muscles, so he will be out for the weekend, I think. Stewie Armstrong. It doesn't stop the problems we have with injuries, but as I said, Ori can be back and Yannick can be back. Kyle is maybe an option for the weekend to come back. A few good news, not without bad news.
So there we go, Ralph revealing that Stuart Armstrong is indeed out. But the great news, Oriol Romeo, Yannick Vestergaard and Carl Walker-Peters are all back in contention.
Yeah, definitely. And Ralph saying there that Yannick Vestergaard could also be back in. But Dean, how have you rated Jack Stevens filling in for him in the last few weeks or month?
I think he's done pretty well, to be honest. I think when he first came back into the team, I was looking at the fixtures. There was 3 clean sheets in a row, which is very, very impressive. Obviously, the last couple of results have not been great, but individually, I think he's defended very well. We know he reads the game well. I think he's 26, 27 years old now, Jax, who's probably coming into his prime. So I think he's done well. You know, he's not Yannick Vestergaard. You know, he's not going to hit them raking diagonal passes. He's not quite as effective on the ball. But I think he's done well enough. Where it's changed, or where Jack has potentially struggled, is when he's not had the protection of James Ward-Prowse or Oriol Romeo in front of him. When them two have played in front of him, you know, there's been clean sheets. And I think that makes a difference. He's not quite had the protection there. When he's played in a consistent and settled back four, then again, he's played well. So I think this is probably a lesson for Jack to understand now when he's coming to 27 years old, that he needs to take a little bit more responsibility, maybe see himself as a senior player a bit more and not that younger player that's still developing. But I think he's done fine. You know, he's cemented his place within the squad. He's a useful player within the squad. But I think, you know, Vestergaard, when he's fit and he's raring to go, I think he's proven this season, you know, the quality of the player is. But, you know, Jack's been a fantastic backup and played well enough, I think.
Well, we will be bringing you the team news in under a minute's time now. So many different questions, I think, on everyone's lips. We're not sure how this is going to go at all, really. Number of you getting in touch on social media to let us know your thoughts. Tell us how you think the Saints will line up to take on Newcastle today. Also getting some fantastic score predictions in as well. Ethan, thanks for this one. He's watching along on YouTube. He's going for a big win today. He hopes the Saints will win 3-1. He thinks it will be Shea with 1 and and Danny with 2. Always great to hear from the fans. Make sure you continue to get those comments into us, and of course, as always, we will read as many of those out as we can here on Saints Live. But again, a number of you are speculating as to how the Saints will line up to take on Newcastle. Will we see Takumi Minamino make a Southampton debut today? Well, I can reveal that the answer is yes, indeed, we will. Now, also very, very exciting to see Yannick Vestergaard and Oriol Romeu starting. A huge boost for the Saints. So let's take a look at that Saints team in full then. In goal, Alex McCarthy. We assume Jack Stephens will slot in at right back to accommodate the return of Yannick Vestergaard. He'll be alongside Jan Bednarek in central defence, and Ryan Bertrand completes the back four in left back. In the middle then, our captain James Ward-Prowse and the returning Oriol Romeu. Great to see him back. Out wide, Nathan Redmond and Takumi Minamino, who will be hoping to get life at Southampton off to a positive start, I'm sure. And the forwards, Danny Ings and Shay Adams. Now, the Saints bench is as follows: Fraser Forster, Mohamed Salisu, Kane Ramsey, Ryan Finnegan, Caleb Watts, Kegs Chalke, Musa Gineppo, Nathan Teller, and Dan and Lundalu. So there we have it, an extremely attacking lineup. Dean, let's come to you first on that one. What do you make of that starting 11?
Well, brilliant to see Vestergaard back, brilliant to see Oreo back. I think it's fantastic, and you can just look at the team. It's so much stronger. There's a huge difference. And I think Jack Stephens playing at right back, that's fine. It makes the defence stronger. You're losing that attacking threat, obviously, with Walker Peters. But, you know, when we've shipped a few goals of late, it's quite good to have that defensive structure and that defensive strength. And then Minamino coming in, it'd be great to see him play, see what effect he can have. Similar sort of role, similar sort of player to Stuart Armstrong. So, you know, makes really, really good decisions. It's quick in his thinking. He's attack-minded. So looking forward to seeing him play. And Nathan Redmond coming back in. I'm a big fan of Nathan. If you can get Nathan playing well, if you can get him playing consistently, really, really good at running with the ball. And you always need a player within your team that can travel with the ball, that can make up 20, 30 yards and take players on. And then the partnership of Danny Ings and Shay Adams. So, yeah, it looks a really, really strong team. You know, there's a smile on my face. I'm smiling about it because I'm looking forward to a Southampton team that's very, very strong playing again.
Adam, a number of positives to take away from this starting 11. As Dean said, it's great news. He's smiling away there. I suppose one of the things to talk about away from Takumi, which we will come on to in just a moment, is Yannick Vestergaard and Jack Stephens, because I know you're a big fan of Jack playing alongside Jan Bednarek last season. I think you even had him down as your player of the season, or one of, certainly. Are you happy to see Ralph accommodating both of them in the same starting 11?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in an ideal world, you probably wouldn't have them like that, because I think Yannick and Jan Bednarek are deservedly the first choice centre-half pairings, and you would obviously prefer to have an out-and-out right-back. But, you know, Jack's... Dean summed it up well when he talked about him earlier. He is kind of a maturing player now. He can play at right-back. Yes, he's not going to offer the kind of dynamic right back role, but he can be solid and effective, and that's what he needs to do for the team today. So it's good to have him as that kind of option that can play really anywhere across the back four. Obviously centre half is his best position, but he can play across there. And to get Yannick and Jan back together in the centre of defence is a huge boost for Saints. I mean, it is fairly obvious that things haven't been quite as good since Yannick's not been in the team. I'm not saying that's the only reason is his absence, because obviously there's been other absences that have contributed to it. But Saints at their most effective this season have been when Yannick has been playing. So it's good to see him back. And overall, I think for the team, it's just good to see a senior-looking team out there. That's what you need after you've had what happened to them in midweek at Man United. You need your senior players out there. You don't want kids out there. You've got to say, Ralph has to say to those guys, it's on your shoulders. You need to help us put this right and steady this ship now. And for that, you want your senior players, you want your big guns out there, and that's what he's got today, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we've seen there, Takumi Minamino does start for Southampton, and in doing so becomes the third Japanese player to represent the Saints. But let's refresh our memory of who the other two were.
Lambert prods it back to the Japanese international. Lee driving in. What a goal from Tadenari Lee! Right turn for Billy Sharp. Pulls it back. Running onto the back post. It's Tadenari Lee! Wanyama might get a shot away, he doesn't. It might fall! It does fall! It's 1-0! Done brilliantly to the byline, pulls it back. They have put it in! They have now! There's no offside flag! And up from the set piece is Mai Yoshida! Gets there, tries to cross, might find Shay Long, pokes it across the penalty, and Saints have equalised! And Mai Yoshida with a spectacular volley in off the crossbar!
So Southampton's two previous Japanese players there. Adam, let's come to you first. What do you remember of the signing of Tadenari Lee?
I remember it coming a little bit out of left field, and he kind of had the hallmarks of there was sort of a bit of a fashion, wasn't there, of we've got a football clubs feeling like they had to break the Far Eastern market in some way, and so you had to have a kind of a player from that region in your squad. As Saints at that time, it was a slightly curious signing, in all honesty. But at that point, all you heard about behind the scenes was shirt sales, abroad, and getting the website and the social media feeds and the programs translated into Japanese, and they were going to be sold on Japanese newsstands, across the country. And it just kind of, it smacked of it was a signing that, I'm not saying they didn't think he was a decent player, but there was kind of a commercial driven element behind his signing as much as being a player in the team. And that seemed quite strange, because it kind of wasn't really a very Saints way to go. And obviously the squad was good, the squad was settled, the squad was becoming successful. So it was a somewhat unusual signing. That would be my best, most tactful summary, I think.
He seemed to have an exceptional work rate though, didn't he, Dean? And what are your memories of him signing, and what was he like on and off the pitch?
Really nice guy, actually. Very, very quiet. Obviously, the language barrier was difficult, but he was always seemed happy. He was happy to be there. Like Adam said, it was a bit of a surprise signing. How do I put it? I don't think it was one of Nigel's signings or his first choice. But yeah, I mean, he came in. He had a translator with him that would take part in training. So the coaches would be explaining certain things, and then it would stop, and then the coach would kind of explain it to him. So training kind of didn't flow quite as well, but then the coach started actually getting involved in the demonstration, so it brought a bit of humour. It was good fun. But no, yeah, you're right. His work rate was fantastic. Had an interesting running style as well, but a decent player. But like Adam touched on there, we had a really settled squad, a team that was playing very, very well. So it was hard for him to break into the team consistently. But worked hard, settled into the group. We had a very open group at Southampton, and was one of our strengths. The team spirit was very, very good. So anyone coming into that group, as long as they kept to our ethics and work effort, we're going to settle in very well. And he did that.
Yeah, definitely. Dean, sticking with you, we saw a goal from there. What a strike. The fans were clearly delighted, but how did the players react to it?
Well, it was a great strike, Steve, because I had a really, really good view from it, because I was on the bench that afternoon. So I was right behind it. A fantastic strike. If you watch his movement, he makes one movement, and then Ricky delays a pass and then gives it back to him, turns his body around. Yeah, and a fantastic strike across the goal. And, the players were delighted for him because, like I mentioned, him coming from another country, didn't speak the language, but worked hard, tried to settle into the group, and then to score a goal like that, I think it was against Derby, was fantastic. Very appreciative of the manager, and the celebration wasn't too bad either. So yeah, it's a great strike, and he could do that. He really could do that. He had good finishing ability, actually. Very, very good in finishing drills in training, but just found it difficult maybe to adapt straight away for a different style of football. But a fantastic finish, and yeah, like I mentioned, I had a great view.
Well, Adam, let's talk about none other than Maya Yoshida now then. 194 appearances for the Saints and such a great servant for the club, both on and off the pitch. I'm not sure it's actually possible to sum up his time at Southampton in 90 seconds, but do you fancy giving it a go?
Oh, I'll give it a crack, yeah. I mean, he was just a great servant for the club. He's one of those guys that you put into that kind of category of great servant, and that doesn't take away from him being a very accomplished player, but he was a guy who often was the kind of third choice centre half. Really, that was kind of often his role. He obviously had some time where he was kind of playing regularly in spells in amongst all that, but regularly he found himself behind, kind of waiting patiently behind the first choice centre halves, and he never kind of kicked up a fuss. He was never difficult or awkward for people, for managers to deal with. He came in, he worked hard, he was committed. He was a good character as well. I think most people who got to know him really liked him. He had a good sense of humour. He was just genuinely a nice guy, kind of one of those kind of characters who just enjoys life. And he gave his all for Saints for a long, long period of time. And it's kind of sad in a way that he's not there anymore and not around the club, because he kind of was one of those people you just like to see around Saints. And yeah, I think he was a good colleague and a good teammate most of the time for Saints, and a really just a good all round egg. And I think you need those kind of characters in your squad. It's great having the headline grabbers, the trailblazers, and the regulars, but a squad is not built on 11, 12 players. It's built on more than that. And it's also built on the characters of people. And that's what the kind of the art of management at the top level is. It's not just getting good players. It's actually getting a gelling of people. Like Dean was talking about the squad that the very successful team he was part of, and that culture. And Maya really fed into that and was a great consistent sort of person in the squad and for a long period of time, and you can't kind of underestimate that, as well as what he contributed on the pitch. So yeah, a great servant for Saints.
Yeah, absolutely.
94 seconds, that.
That was a pretty good effort. I think we'll give him that one. So there we go, Maya Yoshida and Tadanari Lee. And of course, we're all extremely excited to see what Takumi can bring to the Southampton side. But moving on now then, yesterday was the 10-year anniversary for an absolutely ridiculous game at London Road. Dean was amongst the goals when Southampton and Peterborough drew 4-4. So we have the highlights to watch now. We're going to take a look at those and talk over them. Now we're starting off with a Richard Chaplow goal. He always seemed to have a knack of scoring against Peterborough and his former manager Darren Ferguson, Adam.
Yeah, and I think it was Saints had. I seem to remember this game was on the back of playing the other Ferguson and Man United in the cup. They came here, and yeah, Richard Chaplow certainly had. I think he felt like he always had a point to prove against Darren Ferguson, and this game's interesting for him as well because he's very heavily involved in some fairly critical incidents. We see the penalty he wins later, which is. I think Darren Ferguson didn't enjoy that one too much. I seem to remember from his post-match comments. But yeah, he was always one of those guys, wasn't he, Dean? Richard, that is kind of he's definitely a fiery, feisty character out on the pitch as well.
It's funny, Adam. He had an opportunity second half to actually, where he got tripped near Darren Ferguson to absolutely wipe him out, and he didn't. So he got a bit of stick for that.
Yeah, well, you see the great drive from Oxlade-Chamberlain into the box for a penalty that's then awarded to Southampton. Typical that Ricky Lambert steps up and takes this one and fires it right into the back of the net. Then, Dean.
It is, if Ricky Lambert got a penalty, it's a definite goal. Fantastic from the penalty spot, hits the ball so hard, never a doubt in your mind. But the Ox, Alex, when he got the ball wide, when he was isolating fullbacks 1-on-1, that's where you wanted him. He was brilliant at that. Very, very quick off the mark and very, very direct. So yeah, when Ricky had a penalty, it's a definite goal.
Well, this is the start of the fight back then. 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, they had Peterborough had George Boyd and Craig McHale-Smith, and at that level they were good players. They're dangerous players to play against, and I mean, I think both Dan Seaborn there and Kelv won't enjoy watching that one back too much. I don't think either of them covered themselves in loads of glory there. And then again here, I mean, there's sort of a mix-up between the centre-halves, and Dan Harding there at left-back to Whelpdale's just come in at the far post, straight in front of Dan there. Yeah, not great, but I mean, this was such a crazy night and a crazy game that you almost forgive people their kind of mistakes when the game's this chaotic.
Yeah, well, Saints get a second penalty here for a foul, an apparent foul on Richard Chaplow. If VAR was here back in the day, Dean, maybe this wouldn't have been given.
Oh, I don't know what you're on about. He's completely wiped him out. No, it's good play acting by Chappie. But again, he's brilliant at doing that, running into the box, and you get the slightest touch in the box, you're always going to go down. But again, Ricky's penalty, it's almost broke the back of their net. He's concentration on the ball, great strike with his laces. The keeper's gone the right way, but great strike.
And
here's the one.
Dean, this is the best of them all. How about this then?
I'm not sure about the celebration though. I didn't know quite what to do. But yeah, it was. I got asked many questions. Was it something that worked on the training ground? No, it was just something that Andy Crosby saw at half time, that they weren't leaving anyone on the edge of the box, and I was supposed to stay back. We leave 2-on-2 at the back. Yeah, and just try to get a good connection on it. Probably 9 times out of 10 for me, that probably hit someone in the face in the crowd. So it was nice to see it go in, I must admit.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like an absolutely sensational strike. But, Peterborough did eventually pull another goal back. They were awarded another penalty, or there's another penalty in the game, first one for them, to make it 3-4. There's a bit questionable still, Adam.
No, not another game. I mean, the referee's given 4 penalties in this game, and 2 of them are never penalties, in fairness. I mean, he evened them up. There was 1 each, but I mean, that was never a penalty either, was it? I mean, he was going down already there. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Dean, you actually mentioned about refs evening stuff up in the last game. Was that common?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that, Steve, that referees were very good at doing that, or not so good when they give penalties like this. But yeah, they do always have that thought, okay, I probably made a bad decision there. I probably need to even this up if I get an opportunity. And I mean, even this, potentially, does it hit Alex in the chest before it hits his arm? I don't think, well, maybe that's a penalty. But the one before, like Adam said, was never a penalty, and we were very disappointed when that was given.
Yeah,
I remember
was contesting that one as well, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably was a pen, but I just remember this game. It's the press box isn't a great view, and it was kind of one of those old ones at that point. It might have changed now, but it was behind glass, and it was actually quite difficult to kind of see what was going on, and you're just hearing all the noise come through the glass, which is a terrible way to watch a football match. And there was another journalist there. I mean, because it was so chaotic at points, and there's another journalist. I'm not going to name them. But they're a bit of a acquired taste, to say the least, quite a self-important person. And at the end of the game, they said to me, because it was an evening game, so everybody's on really tight deadlines, just looked at me 5 minutes after the game and saw people had drifted off and said, what was the final score in the end? It was 4-4. He said, no, Southampton won, didn't they? I was like, no, it was 4-4. He said they just scored 2 goals. He was like, yeah, but I thought they were 5-2 up. It was such a weird moment, but it was just like encapsulated kind of the chaos of the evening somehow. I don't know. It was just such a weird night. And Darren Ferguson afterward was absolutely fuming. I thought he was gonna tear into that referee. I thought he was going to need the escort out of the ground, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly one to remember, and one that will live long in the memory for sure. And of course, great to see Dean amongst the goals there as well, of course. But back to today's game then. Comments flooding in from the fans. Absolutely delighted with the way the Saints are lining up today. Just so much positivity. We've got a comment here from Talking Taco. Love that name on YouTube. Just simply Minamino. He's obviously super excited to see him make his debut today. Daisy Talks Football on YouTube says, awesome team, Ralph. It's going to be a good afternoon. Let's hope so, Daisy. Ethan said it's such a strong lineup. It most definitely is. Robert's left us this comment on Facebook. He says, we'll most definitely be back to winning ways. Ollie, hello to you. He says, sick team. Anthony says, no complaints whatsoever on that lineup. Hoping for a great game. Sam's also got in touch. He says, this team could wipe away all of this week's negatives. Come on, you Reds. Another one here from Gary. He says strong team and a little fist pump emoji. Catherine, good afternoon. She says come on Saints. And Lou says what a team. Great to see Salisu on the bench. And there's plenty more as well, so we'll read through a few of those in just a moment. But the Saints fans are certainly happy with the way Saints are lining up to take on Newcastle.
Yeah, definitely. We will look ahead to today's game in just a moment. But first, we're going to look back at the reverse fixture in November, where Southampton went top of the league with a 2-0 win.
It might only be 8 games after tonight, but if they can win, they'll have won 5 of them. So suddenly picked it up in the Newcastle half, and now they can have another go. And Adams takes an early shot, and Darlow parries it nicely. Trigger was good from Shea Adams, and Saints have it again. Walcott, and then it's volleyed in by Adams. Brilliant by Southampton. Walcott crossed from the right, and Adams met it and middled it with his right foot. And then that ball from Gineppo is clever. He's found Walcott onside on the back heel. In the box, low shot wide. And Ralph Hasenhüttl, I can hear shouting from here, his frustration at that not going in.
That chance that we were talking about, or you mentioned earlier about getting that second goal.
That was a real chance for Saints to go 2 up, and it's given away by Newcastle. Romeo's got to hit this, and he smashes the crossbar and goes behind for a corner. Darlow's got a touch. Got past a couple of tackles and eventually too many yellow shirts around him, but then they waited on the ball. Armstrong has it. He's got Adams to his left. He shoots, and finally Stuart Armstrong, after all his toil tonight, gets his first goal of the season, and that should be that. Saint-Maximin has Lewis outside him. Now he's got some bodies to aim at. Early cross, he's good. Free header, great save, McCarthy. Joe Ellington's header, there was nothing wrong with it. He angled it beautifully, but McCarthy's flung himself to his left and kept it at 2-0. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. We are top of the league. Southampton 2, Newcastle 0.
So that fixture was exactly 3 months ago. We can actually see St James's Park there. Probably need some layers on. I bet it's freezing up on Tyneside. Saints went top of the league with that win there, but were actually without Ryan Bertrand and Danny Ings. So a little bit of an injury crisis there as well. Adam, it seemed like a pretty routine win given everything that they were going through then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a very kind of standard victory for Saints, which given especially missing Danny, of course, such a big miss for Saints whenever he's out, and he was obviously in really good form at that point in time. It was very impressive, but that's kind of summed up a lot of Saints, especially in the sort of that first part of the season. They were you just expected them to go out and roll teams over, especially sort of bottom half of the table teams. Newcastle, yeah, I mean, they've been up and down this season, really, haven't they? I mean, more down than up, to be honest. But they kind of have been not great, really, and they were there for the taking that night. And Saints have shown that they have got a ruthless streak this season. And if teams are not at their best, or they're going to give them chances, then Saints are going to take them and they're going to put them away. And that's exactly what they did on that night. And it was as you said, Steve, just in the end, quite a routine victory, but obviously a very significant one because it put Saints top.
Dean, you said after Tuesday's match that this is probably the perfect fixture for Southampton to bounce back. Adam said there that Newcastle have probably had more downs than ups so far this season, but what have you made of their campaign so far?
It's really interesting, Newcastle, because there's such huge expectation at the football club and such huge expectation for them to play in a certain manner. I just don't think that's realistic with the financial situation they're in. They're a Premier League team that probably do well to survive, to be honest. If you look at their squad and their team, they've got no real outstanding players. They've got some good Premier League players. They go on poor runs and then they suddenly pull out a really surprise result when they won away at Everton 2-0. No one really picked that out, but it was a good reaction by the team. But they do have a danger man in Callum Wilson, who's a good player, who's a goal scorer. So they're a good Premier League team, but they're probably in the appropriate position for where the club is at the moment. Like I mentioned, there's an expectation that potentially plays on the players' minds. You know, Steve Bruce is the manager and he's also a Newcastle fan, so he's very, very aware of that. He's a passionate man, and I think personally he's doing quite a good job for the situation they're in. But you know, they're not a fantastic team. It's a good fixture for Southampton to go into, especially with the team that Southampton have put out today. And I'd be confident that they can go there and get a result, especially at St James's Park, because their home record's not fantastic. It really isn't. And if Southampton can start well and bright like they normally do and get a goal ahead, then I think it could be a reasonably comfortable afternoon for Southampton.
Yeah, well, Southampton actually haven't lost to a side in the bottom half of the table since that Crystal Palace game on the opening day. Now, while our record against Newcastle isn't great, Adam, is this the type of game that the players should be, relishing and winning?
Well, you'd hope so. I think the record against Newcastle at St James's Park not being great is an understatement. I mean, it's absolutely awful. But that said, the records are, as we always say, are there to be broken and there to be changed. And one thing that this team has done a lot of is break records this season. Mainly positively, thankfully. Obviously, there's been one or two maybe not so good, but it has mainly been positive. And it feels like a good chance to beat Newcastle. As we said earlier, they have done a good job, Saints, this season in kind of dispatching the teams that you feel like they need to in order to, keep progressing up the table. It's been harder against a lot of the big six. That has been more difficult, despite the win against Liverpool. It's been harder to get results, but they kind of have got their position this season through making sure they beat most of the other teams, that kind of, especially the teams that are beneath them, both literally in terms of the table and also in terms of the quality of their squad. And I think Newcastle fall into that category. And when you look at them, they are depleted today defensively as well, somewhat. So it does feel like it's a good time to play Newcastle. I'm sure if we were covering Newcastle at the other end, we'd be saying what a great time to play Saints. They've just lost 9-0. But I think that actually doesn't accurately reflect probably the mentality of Saints coming into this game. And I think that if Newcastle feel that and they're a bit complacent, I think they might be in for a bit of a shock today.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, let's talk specifically about Shay Adams now then, Dean. He's obviously partnering Danny Ings up top. He cruelly had a goal disallowed against Manchester United midweek. We can see that here now. Just how badly does Shay need a goal? And also, how badly does the team need a goal and get the goals flowing again?
Yeah, it's a big factor because obviously you can't win a football match without scoring goals, and I think Shay's performances have been good. I'm a big fan of Shay. I really like him as a player. He would have done his confidence a world of good for that goal to have stood, and it should have done. And then he had a great opportunity a bit later on in the game where there was some good play between him and Nathan, and probably should have taken that opportunity, which was a poor effort with his left foot. But I think it's just been highlighted a little bit more that Shay's not scoring because Danny's not scoring and because the team's not scoring. Shay does so much more for the team. He's a real team player. He gets assists. He does a lot of the hard work for other players to stand out. And I think he's an important part of the team. I really do. Yes, he does need to score some more goals now. But I think we've seen with Shay, if he gets one, he'll probably go on a run of games where he'll get 2 or 3, and that will really help him. But he's still young, he's still learning, but the team does need to start scoring goals again. That's really, really important. And the best thing is they do have the players to do that, and they are creating opportunities. We look at the last 2 games, Shay scored, he had an opportunity that he potentially could have scored. Against Aston Villa, we should have had a penalty for handball. There's a goal disallowed that potentially shouldn't have been disallowed. So, if that... It's fine margins, that little bit of detail. If they've gone our way, that's 4 goals in 2 games. So it's not too far away. But yeah, the goals do need to start going in again to help the team.
Yeah, sticking with you here, Dean. Newcastle have lost 9 of the 12 games where they've conceded first this season, drawing the other 3. How important is it then that Southampton take control of this game early?
Yeah, it really is, and that's what Southampton do. They start the game very, very brightly, on the front foot, press teams, play with that high intensity and generally create opportunities early on. And that's where Southampton are very, very strong. So like I mentioned, if they can get ahead, it will be a reasonably, I believe, comfortable afternoon for Southampton, especially with the team that the managers put out. And, Newcastle, the pressure's on them really because they're the home team. They need a result as much as Southampton do. And Southampton are a bit of a wounded animal. So if I was a Newcastle player, I wouldn't want to be playing Southampton today. I know that sounds silly because they're coming off a 9-0 defeat and confidence could be low, but the sort of results that happen against Manchester United can galvanise a club and players and bring you together and bring you more determined and bring you more focused. So I think Southampton today will be so dedicated and so focused on firstly keeping a clean sheet and not losing, but also winning the game, just to prove people wrong, put a statement out and go, look, okay, we've had a poor result, we've had a poor performance, but we're still having a very good season. So I think it's going to be tough for Newcastle today.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that strong side certainly shows intent from Ralph today. And as we've said previously in the show, the fans are absolutely loving it. So before we come to Dean and Adam for a score prediction, let's nod to social media and have a little look at what you guys are saying at home. St. Paris on YouTube has said they are going to miss Armstrong today. It is a shame he's missing for sure. Yvonne says on Facebook, can't wait, a really positive team. Jeff, hello to you. He says, massive game for Saints, a great team, a must 3 points to get us back on track. Joshua, thanks for this one, love it. He says Lionel Yoshida will never forget the solo goal, and loads of fire emojis. Yeah, what a guy Maya is. Mike has also got in touch. Greetings from Finland, going for 3 points today. Thank you for your company. And 2 more comments here then. We've got one from Jason. He says strongest team Saints could have put out. And Jackie on Facebook says, I just cannot wait for kickoff. What a difference in the team from in the week. Come on, you Reds. We'd love to see Shea score. He really deserves the break.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there is just about half an hour to go till kick-off at St James's Park, so we do need your score predictions, gentlemen. Adam, how do you think the game's going to go, and what are you guessing for the score today?
Well, I'm completely with Dean, actually. I think the Saints are going to be really motivated today. I think there's going to be a big backlash. And I think the other thing about Saints is that I would imagine that they realise the importance of this week for them. Because they have obviously slipped down in the table, and if they're to keep alive their season, they can't like lose 5 in a row and lose this one, because I think that mentally will be difficult on the back of the 9-0. Then they've got the FA Cup as well, where they want to obviously keep progressing, and I think they'll realise if they were to have a bad week now, kind of it's sort of after all that brightness, it's sort of season over. So I think we will see a really determined performance from Saints today, and I think that they will win, and I'll go for 2-0.
2-0. All right, so that's what Adam's saying. Dean, do you concur?
Yeah, well, I was going to go for 2-0 as well, so I definitely concur. But no, I agree with Adam. I think it will be Southampton will put a very, very professional performance in today. They will react very well. I don't think there'll be too many nerves, which people will expect. You've got 3 players coming into the team that weren't part of that Manchester United result, and 2 players in particular that have been fantastic for Southampton this season and are experienced players and play such a vital role in how Southampton play. So I was going to go 2-0, but I'll go for 1-0. And I just think the players will go into term thinking we're going to keep a clean sheet today. Newcastle are not going to score against us. We're going to create opportunities and we're going to win this game. And when you just go in for that sole focus on one game, thinking we're going to win this today, it generally works out for you.
Well, Dean, Adam, great to have you both along with us for Saints Live. As always, thank you for your company. So Takumi makes his debut today, and Southampton will certainly be boosted by the return of Oriel and Yannick as well. So the scene is set at St James's Park. Kickoff is, of course, at 3 p.m. And as always, we'll be back after the game for the final whistle. So make sure you join us then. Bye for now.